Have you ever been to the Ela Arena? Maybe it was for a high school graduation. Maybe it was for pickleball. Maybe it was for an escape room. Whatever the case may be, what you may not know is that from 1970 to 1985, the arena was the home to an NBA team. 39 years after Kansas City's NBA team, the Kansas City Kings, left town for Sacramento, the city remains without an NBA team. This is despite continued efforts from the city to attract one. NBA team values continuing to skyrocket, paired with the lack of relocation and or expansion efforts being made by the NBA. The prospect of a Kansas City NBA team grows more and more unlikely.
The mayor talked about, sources or Las Vegas is a possibility. What would be the time frame? What would hinge on expanding?
There's no clear sort of benchmark to get there. Part of it is that I think a sense of the governors, the owners of the teams, as to their view of when it makes sense to grow the enterprise. I mean, to me, there's two core issues. One is the economics, of course, and that if you expand, the way I think of the league, the 30 teams, there's 30 shareholders, and you're really selling equity. If you just, let's say we were expanding by an even number, then to the extent you're growing, things get divided 1/32 instead of 1/30. And so then it's the time value of money. If you, whatever the values you get for that expansion team, what's the cost of that equity that you're selling, the value of it? So that's one way we look at it. I think the other is the competition on the floor. And what's interesting in this league is that even where, like another global sports soccer, where there's multiple great leagues around the world, the Bundesliga, La Liga, the English Premier League, all top-notch leagues. In basketball, everyone would acknowledge there's one league at the top of the pyramid globally, it's the NBA. Yet even with all the very best players in the world coming to this league, a game played by tens of millions of kids around the world, you still don't have the kind of competitive parity that we would like. You and I both know you could start the season, you could say there's a large group of teams that in all likelihood aren't going to win the championship. Or if you look at a Vegas board or something, you can see where the odds are. And if you expand, you're diluting talent even more. So that is a factor we look at. And I think it's in the part of the mindset of the existing teams, how that will work. Having said all that, I think enterprises naturally grow over time, and there's no doubt Seattle would be a great market. Las Vegas would be a great market. There's state-of-the-art arenas, in both those communities, and so we'll look at it. Interestingly, it's not on the front burner for our league right now, and also we're going to go through a new collective bargaining negotiation. I also think there's a lot of uncertainty in the media world right now. All these new streaming platforms potentially interested in sports, so it's hard to set the right value. I think that's something we're going to monitor as well. So nothing will happen.
From 1970 to 1985, Kansas City had an NBA team, the Kansas City Kings. The Kings would experience moderate success. The Kings' time in Kansas City was a time of ups and downs. In 1982, a Sacramento investment group submitted a bid to buy the Pacers. The two sides weren't able to reach an agreement. The following year, in 1983, the same Sacramento-based group bought the Kansas City Kings for $10.5 million, $33 million adjusted for inflation. The group denied planning to relocate the team and promised to stay in Kansas City, but this turned out to be a bold-faced lie.
Kings, good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Berg, and along with John McLaughlin, we welcome you to our telecast. I don't know, John, maybe I should have said the soon-to-be Sacramento Kings. That's a problem.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of turmoil going on around here right now, not only in this organization, but in this town, and that's something we're going to go into more at halftime with Joe Axelson, the president and general manager of the Kansas City Kings.
The team would relocate to Sacramento before the start of the 1985-1986 NBA season. Kansas City's NBA hopes were non-existent until 2000 for when plans for a $200 million state-of-the-art arena in downtown Kansas City were announced. The arena was built with plans to attract an anchor tenant from the NBA or NHL, despite continued promises of bringing in an anchor tenant. 17 years after being open, the Sprint Center remains incarless.
You know what? We're running out of patience. I mean, you mentioned you got to have patience. 5 years. We've waited 27 years since we've had a baseball playoff. We haven't won a football playoff game in who knows when, since 1993. I mean, how much more can the Kansas City sports fan take?
So my answer back is, look at what they're doing right now at Livestrong. Look at what that soccer team's doing. That soccer team, and we own a soccer team with the Galaxy. I think they're going to win the cup this year. And I think the cup will be played here. I think they get the home field because they have the best record on the East. I think what that will do for this community is phenomenal. What I love most about Kansas City is you don't need to go get a team in order to prove how great a community it is. Doesn't mean we won't get one at the right time. But in my opinion, be patient because you don't need a team. This is singularly the most successful building in the country without an anchor tenant. It's the third most successful building in the country.
The sports fan doesn't care about
that. You get more sports events here. You get more great stuff here. Like the Heat, if you have an NBA team, the Heat weren't coming. So what I'd say is if the deal's right and you don't have to subsidize it. But in the meantime, when we opened this building, there wasn't that soccer stadium. And now look at the success that they're having. I think you take a deep breath and say, under the right terms, move a team here. If it's about writing them a check and subsidizing them, is that really the definition of what this community is? I don't think so. We'll be patient. And in the meantime, you have the third most successful arena in the country right now. That's pretty good.
You're telling me, though, that we will get a franchise and probably a hockey.
If it were me, and you look around at some of these places where the hockey teams are going, and you look at some of the markets that ultimately are struggling, and I always have to be careful because I'm on the executive committee of the National Hockey League, so I don't want to pick a fight with the commissioner. But if I had a choice between Phoenix or Kansas City, I'm in Kansas City all day long. But they need to come to that realization because otherwise they're going to put a gun to your head and hold you hostage. And
that's what Pittsburgh did, right? Didn't Pittsburgh do that?
well, Pittsburgh used Kansas City well, but they were ready to move. And if they didn't get that deal done at the 24th hour with Governor Rendell, they were moving here, and the Penguins would have been playing here. If Kansas City wants a team, be patient. They'll get one. But the key is do it on your terms. Don't do it on their terms because you're not going to like their terms.
Arena here, about $300 million worth, and AEG contributed, I don't know, over $50 million, whatever it was. And I think going back to the message at that time was that, if we build this, we're going to get a professional franchise. That has not happened. Where does that stand? Or do you regret that? I know it's very successful here, the way it is right now, concerts and everything else. But the message was we're going to get a team.
We talk about it all the time, including the mayor, who's fantastic, one of my favorite guys. And we go back and forth on should we really put our time and effort into a team. So about 3 weeks ago, I came here for a private dinner with the business leaders, and we sat at dinner and discussed, do we go take another effort and try to get an anchor tenant? The thing that's unique about this building is it's doing so well without it right now. Between the basketball, in particular the college basketball, and having the opportunity to bring KU here 2 or 3 times a year, between the diversity of the music events, the diversity of the sports events, the problem is if we brought an anchor tenant here, you take 40 nights out. So instead of last night and the Miami Heat playing here, or Taylor Swift playing 2 or 3 nights at Sprint Center, we probably lose a lot of that. And what everyone in the business community believes is the diversity of those events is far more appealing than trying to go compete with the Royals and the Chiefs and the soccer team at trying to pull more money out of season tickets. So if there's a team that is moving, we're engaged. We actually have a pretty good group of people here that are interested in buying a team, probably hockey more than basketball because it's a great college basketball marketplace. That said, I think the brilliance of Sprint Center is I think the business community and the community as a whole loves the diversity of the 140 events a year that we're doing here. We're making more money than anyone ever thought we'd make. We're giving a lot of money back to the city. And whether it be the mayor or the business community, what everyone's saying now is, you know what, stay the course. This is pretty good what's going on here.
You're making the money, but you're not satisfying the appetite of the sports fan.
I'm not sure there's an appetite.
Basketball.
Here's the debate. Is there that much of an appetite? If you look at the NBA, I'm not sure a team ultimately could survive having to charge the kind of ticket prices they charge.
We had 16,000 in the Sprint Center
Yeah,
to watch
well, that's
NBA
true.
last night.
But it's
we
a
had
preseason.
20,000 across town to watch soccer.
It's a great sports marketplace, but I got to tell you, even I've been converted. When we first built this, we were dedicated to trying to get an anchor tenant. Now I'm looking at it going, be careful, because if we bring an anchor tenant here and it doesn't do well, it'll kill this building, it'll kill the downtown renaissance that's been created here, so be careful. I still think a team's coming, but I think it's going to be one. There's only one team that's moved since we opened this building. So Seattle moved to Oklahoma because the Oklahoma group went and bought them. There's a good group here. They want to do it, but I think it's going to take some time, and I think it's a good thing Kansas City be patient. Here's our big thing. If this is about a boatload of money, if this is about backing the truck up and dumping money into the lap of an owner or a team, the thing I love about the success that Sprint Center's had is Kansas City from the mayor on down says, we're not doing that. We're not sitting here giving them a blank check. We don't need it. Our city and the definition of who we are is created every day without feeling like we have to go sell our soul and our checkbook to get an anchor tenant. That's a cool.
Who knows what the future holds for Kansas City NBA? However, the Miami Heat haven't played a preseason game in Kansas City since 2017, which makes the Kansas City NBA fans' drought even longer.